Aimee Reid is a Canadian author, and Aimee, prior to becoming an author, was a teacher. She taught English and music and was in special education, and then went into writing books full time. And we're glad to welcome her back once again. Hi, Aimee. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Mike. It's wonderful to see you again.
This is 2 years since we last spoke, a little more than 2 years. My, how that time has flied.
Yes.
And of course, for you, you were very busy with the launch of that wonderful book, You Are My Friend, which you and I talked about at that time. And I guess safe to say that that was a real success.
Yeah, it's been really well received, which is heartwarming to see. One of the reviewers called the book worthy of the incomparable Mr. Rogers, which was very meaningful to me because my whole motivation in writing it was to honor the person of Fred Rogers. And a Japanese edition has come out, which has been really fun. That's my first foreign edition. And again, the thing that made that really special to me is that the publisher wanted a book that was going to promote a model of emotional health to the young children that read it in Japan. They didn't really have much concept of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or who Fred Rogers was. And I thought that was really wonderful. So, and it was also given a Heather's Pick designation from Indigo Books, which again is very meaningful to me as a Canadian writer, that it would be acknowledged by Indigo. And so, but connecting with folks who've read it and children who've read it in schools and libraries and elsewhere, and hearing from them about how they connect with the themes of the book has been the most special part for me.
Well, you were very busy over a long period of time with visits to schools and libraries. And then, of course, COVID came along and kind of shut down all of that. Were you able to continue any of that interaction online?
Yes, and it's been shockingly easy and wonderful, actually. I mean, we're all adjusting, right? So there was at first people sort of had to figure out how to do things in this new reality, but then things moved online, and it's been quite lovely to connect with libraries and schools and festivals all online. And in some ways, I'm realizing that audiences can have a little bit more of a personal, it seems odd, but a little bit more of a personal connection to me in that the screens are often quite large. I was surprised when a teacher shared a picture she took of my visit with her classroom. I forget in which state in the US, and I realized how big my face appeared on the screen in front of the children. And I thought, okay, I'm really there, larger than life for them. And they can come up to the computer and ask me questions themselves, which is a very special part of those sorts of visits. And also you can include more people. Telling Tales Festival that normally happens in the Hamilton area here was online, and so multiple schools, multiple classes could join, and that has been really, really lovely.
And of course, youngsters, they're so adept to technology that talking to you on a computer is no big deal for them.
It's really true. You're exactly right. And they quite love it. Sometimes I come into a school, let's say, and there are multiple classes, and so the teacher's kind of controlling, zooming in once for the class, and everybody's sitting in their seats and they come and up to the mic to ask their questions. But sometimes whole classes were online and the kids were at home, and so that was really fun because they would all chime in, hello, hello Afzad, hello Mohammed, hello Rachel, hello Maya, and the teacher would be like, okay everybody, you have to mute your mics now. Mrs. Reid is here to talk to us. But I really loved seeing that sort of childlike excitement and wonder and connection.
Well, during the COVID period, you obviously have been very, very busy. You have a couple of new books, one which is out now, and another one which will be released in just a short period of time, which we'll get to in a few moments. But I wanted to start by talking about Welcome Home, which is already in print. I think it was launched back in January, wasn't it?
Yes, very beginning of January, right after New Year's.
And I'm rather interested that this lovely book. What was the spark that led you to create this book for young children, new moms, and this arrival back at the house?
Yes, the initial concept came to me when I was having my own children and thinking about how the experience of welcoming a child might look different in different families or in different cultures, but we all experience common emotions, that joy and wonder and excitement and curiosity for the other siblings and cousins. And so I really wanted to celebrate that sense of welcome that the whole world shares. So, it starts with the mom welcoming the new baby and goes to the dad and the siblings and the auntie and the uncle, grandma, grandpa, cousins, and ends with a bit more of a broader scope. Welcome home, little one, to our blossoming lands, to our sheltering care, to our cradling hands. Welcome home to our song, to where you belong. Welcome to the world. So I wanted it to have that sense of welcome from the whole world to this new little baby that's come to join us, that sense of belonging and connectedness. And yeah.
When I was looking at the book, and my overriding impression was that this, as well as being welcoming, really wraps its arms around everybody that is in the baby's world. And as you just mentioned, it covers all the members of the family, and then the neighbors, and then all the other little children from the neighborhood. Like it goes to the outer reaches to be inclusive and bring everybody together on this new little bairn that has arrived in the house. It's full of love, but it's also got a wonderful inclusive sense to it as well.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me, that would be the impression you received, because that was what was in my heart. So you're an astute reader, and in fact, that's a new way of thinking about it, but wraps its arms around the whole community that's gathering to celebrate the life. I love that. I'm going to keep that in my mind as I talk about the book, because it's exactly that sense of a big hug is what I was going for. And I love Rasheen's art. Rasheen Kyrie did the art, and it's just filled with joy and delight and wonder. And everybody is, the pictures are bursting with color, and everybody's bursting with excitement at this new baby being born.
The color palette is really gentle. They're lighter colors, but they have a sense of celebration about them, and I think that's one of the things that comes along throughout the book. But the artwork is really quite unique. How do you get paired up with an artist to work on a book like this?
Yes, that's a great question. So I'm not an artist, so my publishers sign up my text, and then they go on the hunt to find an artist that they think will just be perfect for the message of the book. And so my editor and the art director, they start looking, and often when they find a few illustrators that they think might work, they talk to each other. They often will talk to me and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. We're kind of excited about these options. And once they decide on an illustrator, then it's sort of a separate process. I'm working with my editor if there are any changes being made, and then Rasheen, or whoever the illustrator is, works with the art director, and eventually her art comes to the art director, to the editor, to me, and sort of back through the chain, and everybody's working very diligently to make the most beautiful book possible. And actually, you know, Mike, you mentioned the colors in that book, and we received like a mock-up, basically. It's called a folded and gathered copy. And, you know, some of the color folks were just saying, well, it's just not exactly the saturation we wanted. We're going to have them reprint that and try it again. And so there's a lot of care that goes into the whole process. And I'm enormously grateful to the people, the designers, you know, the PR people, everybody that's represented in a book like this. My name and Rasheen's are on the cover, but, you know, it's a very large team that produces something like that.
You make a very good point in behind what seems to be a rather easy process. Oh, isn't that a lovely little book? Uh, there's a lot of care and consideration that goes into it. I can remember being at press proofings and watching pages come off a printer and, you know, looking at it with a printer's eye. And it's high in detail. And Rasheen is obviously a very well-known illustrator, has done over 80 books, and I think you must feel pretty wonderful about that relationship.
I do. Yeah.
Well,
Something people don't necessarily know is that I've never actually met any of my illustrators in real life. We're from all different places, and we're sort of brought together in this publishing process. And you know, one of these days, I'm sure we'll meet at a writers' conference, and it'll be very exciting.
I was going to say Beach Lane Books or Simon and Schuster should arrange a big party someday for all these writers and the illustrators to come together and, oh, that's you.
Exactly. But I really get a feeling of them through their art, though.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. And before we move on to the next book, which will be coming out in, is it May the 8th, is it?
May the 3rd. I think it's
May the 3rd?
Tuesday,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to let our listeners know that you've been very kind to offer us a couple of books of the new books, and they will be signed, and they'll be coming to the radio station. And when they arrive, we'll be letting people know how they can enter a little contest. And by the way, these books are meant for a new mom and a new baby coming into the house. So if you know someone in your circle of friends or family that's about to have a young one or has just had a new baby, well, stand by. As soon as the books come in, we'll let people know how they can enter this contest. And you would end up with something pretty special, signed by the author. Not too bad.
Yes, I'm very happy to do it. There's nothing quite like the feeling of signing a book for a brand new baby.
Yeah.
And you know, Mike, if folks who are listening, you know, I love your station and I love the Haliburton community. If they're listening and they want to get one of these books to give as a gift or for themselves, they can connect with me on my website. And I would be happy to, they can drop me a line. I would be happy to sign and personalize a little book plate that can go in the front of the book and send it off to them. So that's aimeereidbooks.com, AIMEE REID books.com. And just drop me a line. I would be very happy to do that as a celebration for the books coming into the world and just in thanks for this interview.
Well, that's a lovely offer. Thank you very much. Now let's talk about First Morning Sun. And this is a different kind of book, a lovely companion to Welcome Home, I might add. But tell us a bit about the book and how it's going to be used.
Yeah, it is a celebration of the milestones that a little baby, a newborn, and its family enjoy. So all of those firsts, the first morning sun, the first piece of cake for a birthday, this page first grandma's rock, first round the clock, that first long night with a baby, first scraped up knee, first climbing tree. So facing all those little milestones in a child's life, and celebrating them and watching that child grow and develop skills and confidence. So I was actually visiting an author friend when I got the idea for this book a few years ago, and we went. My friend Augusta Scattergood is a novelist who was living in St. Pete's at the time in Florida. So we went to the beach one day. We took a break from our writing and went to the beach, and it was April, and I was swimming in the Gulf, and I thought, this is pretty glorious for this Canadian girl to be out swimming in the water. I love to be in the water. And then that night, two lines came to me. First rolling wave, first feeling brave. And I thought, oh, had that little feeling of a spark that sometimes happens. Oh, I think this might be something. And I sort of tucked myself away in my room at Augusta's and jotted down some lines and shared them with my family when I called home, and shared them with Augusta and with my writing friends. We were meeting up the next day to do some work together, and that was encouraging. And so I came home and did some more work and sent it off to my agent, who thought this was something special too. And fortunately, my editor at Beach Lane Books agreed. So it will now be a new book to mark those celebrations. And something I like about it is at the end, the last first for the child that's being celebrated is that there's a new baby in the family. So they'll get to repeat those milestones all over again and watch as the new little sibling experiences them.
When I was looking at the advanced copy of the book, and I was thinking, I could see parents and immediate family writing little notes in the book, putting dates in, saying, okay, this happened on, and what a glorious feeling, like just little notes, so that down the road, that book becomes a keepsake that gets passed on to the child when they're 21 or whenever. But I think it's a lovely, lovely opportunity for people to actually look at these firsts that a youngster goes through.
I love that. Now I have goosebumps again, Mike. Just like when I got those first lines. But you're right, because they're very, it's sort of the iconic first baby talk, first shaky walk. So, I'm going to have to mention this to my editor.
Yeah. Oh, to be able to write in what that first baby talk was. Wow.
Yes.
And the problem we all have is if we don't write it down and save it, in 10 years, we've forgotten it.
It's true. It's true. I took to using a calendar with my kids, and I would jot down, because when they hit that vocabulary spurt and they're just coming out with a bunch of new words a day, it's pretty exciting. And they're on the go and you're on the go. And it's lovely to look back and see how that was happening.
Yeah.
You're right, because you do want to memorialize it.
It's interesting that in that book, there are some obvious firsts that have to be there. But I wondered about the selection process. There must have been a lot of hours put into what firsts are we going to put in the book. You could go on forever.
You could. And, a picture book is X number of pages. So we did really think very carefully about it. And I wanted each page to be give opportunity for Jing for her art, or whoever was going to be illustrating it. At that point, I didn't know, to really show us something special. So first rolling wave, first feeling brave, that can be anybody's sort of dipping their toes in the water in many places. First work of art, I thought, well, there's something very special about when they get a little bit older and they can, make something with their own hands. And many of us have received those little first
Yeah.
art creations. And I did include a few things like first scraped up knee, and then first climbing tree. So, we're also remembering I guess the stretching parts of growing up.
Hmm.
First school door pause, that moment of separation when someone goes to daycare or school at the first time. But then I followed it up with first crowd applause, when someone is just doing their first kindergarten chorus or some little play that they're performing for the family. So we did put a lot of thought into it, and thank you for noticing that.
And the artwork, once again, is very different from your previous book, but very appropriate to what you're trying to communicate. And I found this had a, a much more graphic intensity to it.
Hmm.
It helped move you through these first, and there was a sense of action and activity with the graphics. So it was really, really beautifully done.
Yes, and I love that there's a different perspective on the different pages. Jing Jing Song is the illustrator, and she does a real close up for the page that says first peekaboo, and we see the little baby coming out of the bath and peeking at herself in the mirror, and then the child later on is playing with friends on a swing, and one of the reviewers said, it looks like it's almost taking off across the page. And so I love the cheer and the emotional resonance that I found in the spreads. And yeah, there's that sense of movement. You're right.
It's a lovely, lovely book. As I say, a wonderful companion to Welcome Home, and it will be released on May the 3rd or 4th, somewhere in there.
Yes.
And people can pre-order a book, can't they?
They absolutely can. I'm sure you can order it right into Master's Bookstore in Halliburton, through the store. You can order through Indigo Chapters, those major retailers, and most independent stores will be able to bring it in as well. So you can certainly, it's up for pre-order now. And as I said, if people are thinking they'd like to have it signed, I'd be very happy to drop a little book plate in the mail and a note, and you can put it in your book or put it in the book that you'd like to give to someone. It's a way I can connect with people even if we're not necessarily living right next door. I feel like you're right next door when you're reading one of my books, and yeah, it's a very special thing for me to do. So I'm very happy to do that if people would like that.
Well, thank you again for the offer of the signed copies of these two wonderful new books. And we do appreciate that. And a reminder to our listeners that they should be listening to Canoe FM. And as soon as we have received them, let people know how they might be able to win these two signed copies. And some lucky mom, new mom, either to be or has just been, will be delighted, I have no doubt. These are both wonderful additions to a children's library. Aimee, it's wonderful to see you again, and I thank you so much for joining us today.
It's truly a pleasure, Mike. I always enjoy talking to you. I love the Halliburton community, and it's just a pure pleasure to connect with you again in this way.